You've seen it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The red one. No, not that one. I'm talking about the stick shift. Yes. Chances are, if you're a Volvo fan, you've probably seen this car cruising around YouTube. But do you know how it got so famous? Do you know how the Topher bought his 5-speed Volvo 850R? The date is July 18th, 2019. Before this point, there had only been one 850R listed on Bring a Trailer, and it was a wagon. But it didn't sell. The Swedish brick fans were waiting for something a little more flashy. A new auction listing goes live. A red 5-speed 97 850R sedan is posted with no reserve price. Approximately one of 5,000 made from 1995 through 1997, this baby's located in Concord, New Hampshire, and the seller highlights 158,000 miles with a fresh timing belt kit at 152, alongside the factory stereo with aux input and a clean Carfax to tie it all together. Arguably the most important part of this car is the 5-speed swap. In the US, Volvo did not sell 850Rs with manual transmissions from the factory, making this a very rare find. The seller acquired the car in March of 2018, about 14 months prior to the listing on Bring a Trailer. Some comments begin rolling in, and the first bid is placed before the seller has the chance to reply. Finally, at 11:23 p.m., he posts a long introduction for the car. He explains the listing is his first Bring a Trailer sale, and that he will be in another area of New Hampshire and even Maine with the car, where interested bidders can take a look in person. This 850R is his 4th Volvo and 3rd R. He found this one in particular one night on Craigslist, noting that it looked very well kept. A few weeks passed and the ad remained active, so he had to go check it out. He bought the car and drove it through Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, and into Denver before deciding to store it with family while he returned home, grabbed his wife, and brought her back to Colorado to finish the road trip with him. Although he had really enjoyed owning the car since then, his taste in cars is extremely broad, aligning him to more of a catch and release collector style, and he hopes the car will go to someone that continues to give it the love it deserves. It must have been just after the Topher posted his review of the 2020 Kia Telluride that he noticed this 850R. At 3:34 in the afternoon, he asks, "Can you offer any more details on the manual swap? Any grinds between gears, newer clutch? How solid is the dashboard? Broken dashboard mounts are pretty common on these 850s, but I've seen a lot of variants from car to car." No response from the seller just yet. Eager to get into the action, the Topher asks another important question. Does the AC work? The seller responds in under a minute, confirming that it does work, as well as the cruise control. No response from the Topher as another hour passes before the seller acknowledges his original comment. He reveals the previous owner completed the swap not long before he bought the car, and the transmission is from a C70. While it may not shift as smoothly as his old factory manual S60R, there is no grinding between gears and the clutch feels and functions just fine. He also comments that he has never checked the dashboard mounts, but the car has a very solid interior that may have some minor noises, but overall is relatively quiet. There's not much activity over the next few hours, but as the night rolls on, a few more bids come in. Friday night turns into Saturday, July 20th, and the highest bid is at $3,300. This was placed at 12:01 a.m., and the listing is silent for the rest of the morning. It's not until the early afternoon that the auction has a new development. A new bid is entered at 2:19 in the afternoon. With no further questions on the transmission swap, dashboard, and air conditioning, the Topher himself is in at $3,500. The remainder of the day is relatively quiet, with the exception of a question from another user about the odometer and dashboard bulbs functioning correctly. The Topher is one-upped to $3,600 at 7:23 p.m., about 5 hours after he placed his first bid. Besides a new bid for $3,700 towards the end of the day, Sunday the 21st is pretty uneventful. Over on the Topher's channel, he's busy reviewing an electric unicycle. Does this look like a guy who's worried about losing this auction? The weekend is over and the auction enters its final 3 days. At 1:08 p.m., an important update is placed into the comments by Bring a Trailer. A walk-around video has been added to the listing. The seller spends over 12 minutes showing the car in great detail and demoing probably every button and switch in the interior. With an auction site like Bring a Trailer, where most bidders probably aren't going to see the car in person, we can anticipate a video like this would enhance buyer confidence and bring in more bids and a higher price. That would make sense, right? It's funny because the next comment is literally this. The seller quickly replies that he's working on a driving video, but he's realized they're harder to create than he originally thought. This is almost like a foreshadowed tip of the hat. He doesn't realize one of the bidders is literally a professional at these types of videos. As promised, the seller gets a driving video uploaded to the listing by the end of the day. At 7:29 p.m., a 9-minute point of view drive is made available. The addition of this video combined with the walk around and over 100 photos brings the listing as close to seeing the car in person as possible. Around lunchtime on Tuesday the 23rd, the seller throws in some info that was not directly asked for in the comments. He says a few interested bidders have reached out to him directly asking what he would fix if he ended up keeping the 850R. He made it clear the car doesn't need anything, but he says the tires are mismatched from front to back and a little loud on the road, but he doesn't want to waste perfectly good tires, so he'd wear them out before replacing them. He'd also recommend throwing a coat of wax on the paint, which is over 2 decades old and single staged. Extra wax limits the risk of the paint oxidizing. Third, the wiper blades for the headlights are shot, however they are very cheap to replace. The Volvo badges are also not perfect and could be replaced someday. The rest of the day is pretty quiet besides one user who may have entered a quarter-life crisis after laying eyes on the listing. Entering Wednesday, which is also the second to last day of bidding, the Topher hasn't been seen since Saturday. The last bid was for $3,700 shortly after 7 p.m. on Sunday night. Has this auction dried up early? 6:38 a.m. A new development. A $4,000 bid from the Topher with no comment to follow. Placing a bid this early in the morning means one thing and one thing only. You see, you bid on a Bring a Trailer auction late at night after you've been drinking. You bid on a Bring a Trailer auction during the day when you're avoiding your work. But you bid on a Bring a Trailer auction at the crack of dawn when it's been keeping you up at night. The Topher means business. The rest of the day is filled with some back and forth between the seller and other users, but nobody tops the $4,000 bid. The night winds down and the Topher enters Thursday, July 25th as the leading bidder. If you're familiar with Bring a Trailer auctions, it's not unusual for the final hours to be the most action-packed. This auction is no different. The listing is set to end around 4:40 p.m. By 10 a.m., there are 7 new comments, some questions for the seller, some responses, and some commentary anticipating an exciting end to the bidding. This late in the auction, we can expect some tug-of-war between those who want the car the most. And remember, this auction has no reserve price. The last bid will take this 850R home. 1 p.m. rolls around and there is some back and forth bidding between 2 users who have not commented on the listing yet at all. ICB runs the bid up to $5,300, knocking Speedy E out for the rest of the auction. 3:30 p.m. hits and ICB holds the lead with only about an hour left to bid. 4:36 p.m., just a few minutes before the auction is set to end. The leading bid is for $6,100 by WJ Handy, a user who battled their way up from their original $5,400 offer that beat out ICB about an hour beforehand. Without comment, the Topher jumps back in at $6,200. Over the next 90 seconds, the bids are coming in rapidly. At this point, there appears to be 3 serious contenders in the race for this car: WJ Handy, Thomas GS4, and the Topher. Another user that goes by Scotier enters the auction with no prior comments on the listing, $6,800 at 4:38 p.m. This seems to be an attempt at an eBay bid sniper styled win. ICB, who bid multiple times earlier in the afternoon, comes back in at $6,900, only to be one-upped to $7,000 by the Topher moments later. The next series of bids sends the auction into overtime, with each bid tacking on 2 minutes to the countdown timer. Some users start to drop out as the highest bid drives into the upper $8,000 range. By 4:42 p.m., the only 2 bidders left are Thomas GS4 and the Topher. The countdown timer is running out as the clock hits 4:44 in the afternoon. The Topher was in at 8,700, but is it possible this was the maximum he had in mind? There was just no way he was letting this one get away. This car was destined to be an icon of the channel. His $8,900 bid throws 2 minutes back onto the clock, giving Thomas GS4 a last chance to try and secure this Volvo. The clock continues to wind down, and the 60-second mark brings more anticipation than New Year's Eve. At 4:46 p.m., the Topher was recorded as the official winner of this 850R. Some of the users that were deep into the bidding for this car leave some final comments, mostly congratulating the Topher on the win. The Topher comments, "That was intense. I've been wanting a clean 5-speed swapped 850R for 10 years. Does anyone want to buy an equally clean 96 850R auto? I'll be posting lots of videos on YouTube of this beauty. Tom, I'll see you this weekend." A few minutes later, runner-up Thomas GS4 tags the Topher in a comment telling him to check his Facebook Messenger. Rumor has it, he's still trying to buy this car off him today. This auction was nearly 2 years ago. With today's market, how much would you be willing to pay for a 5-speed 850R owned and driven by the Topher?